Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you here for Navigating Uncertainty with Conscious Leadership. My name is Annie. I am just going to be helping out today, so any questions, any speaking opportunities, I'll be running around with the mic, so just put your hand up. I have the honor of introducing Amber Setter. Amber is the Chief Enlightenment Officer at Conscious Public Accounting. Let me step away from that. And the mission of their mission is to guide accountants back to wholeness. So Amber works with a select few clients who are experts in their craft, but still have that need and hunger for education. And they've chosen to work with her because of her intellect, her authenticity, and her drive to help educate in ways that they've never experienced before, which I'm excited to hear about because Amber's a fan of both rap and adult development theory, so I think that's a pretty cool combination, and I'm excited to see what you do today. So big warm round of applause for Amber, and we can't wait to learn.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming today. I'm just curious because this is my first in-person conference since COVID, so is anyone else in that camp, like first time being with other humans? Thank you for coming, welcome. I'm really excited. I was actually sharing with Annie earlier that I've been working from home since 2005. So this stuff isn't new to me, and it's been fun to watch people go through it. And in that, like, I can tell you for sure I'll never go back to being in an office 5 days a week. And I also know for sure that nothing replaces the experience of being with other humans. So thanks for coming today. I'm excited to have a live audience, and what I did was design our time together so that, you know, we're going to have some conversation as a group, you're going to break out and talk to one another in pairs, and then you're going to do a little introspection and conversation with yourself. So if you don't have it handy, you're going to want to have something to write on, and maybe it's a little gusto journal or your notes or something, because in coaching we say insight plus action equals results. I can share lots of great information with you, but if you don't take something away of something you're going to actually do with your life and change, like, you're not going to change because there's nothing that changes. So just kind of a quick thing, you might notice that we have a disco presentation going on today. So I believe in all that woo-woo stuff like Mercury in retrograde and where technology goes bad. Maybe that's what's going on. I'm not worried about it. I hope you guys can be with it too, but it is going on, and thanks to our amazing AV team who's, I don't know, maybe trying to move planets or something, maybe burn some sage, I don't know. All right, so where I wanted to start the conversation is actually sharing with you guys what I did to prepare for coming here, which was a journaling activity. So my morning ritual is I get up, I have a 17-year-old elderly dog, so I take him outside right away, and then he demands treats, I get him those. And then I make a cup of coffee, and I oftentimes just go back to my bed, and I sit and I read, or I pull out a journal. And I write. You know, it's just part of being a professional coach is we have a reflective practice. And sometimes I'm writing about whatever anxiety's going on, kind of working it out, pen to paper. And sometimes I'm writing about what I want to create for my future life. But what I wrote about, for whatever reason, just came to me in preparation for coming here was all the things I'm grateful for in my life. So I'm super grateful to be a mom. Like, I have this amazing little 7-year-old who is fun and playful and probably one of my greatest teachers, because she's like, "Mommy, your voice is very rough right now." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I better work on my tone," right? So she's amazing. And I was writing like how grateful I am that I can afford to pay for her to go to private school. Partly because she was looking at going to kindergarten online in California, and that didn't really work for me, and partly because I really believe in the holistic education of a human. So I was writing about how grateful I was for that. And then I was writing about how grateful I am for my home. So I have a home that I moved into 4 years ago, and I moved into that home after I got a divorce, which was a hard choice to make, but it felt like it was the right choice to make. And that home is my nest, and I call it my nest, and it's got a great office that sources me for creativity. And I'm grateful I can pay for it. And then I wrote about how grateful I am that I got a divorce because I'm in a wonderful conscious relationship. He was walking around yesterday introducing himself as my arm candy. I don't know if you met him, but he's a wonderful human being, and I just had this soul feeling that I was meant to have a conscious relationship, which I've manifested, and I'm super grateful for that. And he's been really good at helping me to not work very much. So I've never worked less in my life, and I still make the same amount of money, and that's a beautiful thing. And the last thing that I wrote about how grateful I was for my work, because I love what I do. And I'm at a place in my life and my career where I only say yes to those things that totally excite me, that I really want to do. So when I work with individual coaching clients, like, I love them, I think about them. I was here, I came early to Denver, and I went to a yoga class with one of my best friends who lives in town. And when I was doing yoga, I thought of something for one of my clients, and I got out of yoga, and I was like, oh, you know that goal you've been working on for her goal has been work less, make more. And I was like, I got a message in yoga, and I can say weird things like that to her, and she's into it. And I said, the message was, work less, have a greater impact. Because she's just at a place where more money is not going to bring any more happiness, and that happens as you get higher. And I'm like super grateful to do work with Gusto. Like, they're amazing. They care about the whole human being just like me. And so it's wonderful to align with other organizations that have similar beliefs, that are drawing in the people that are hungry for that. So I really am very grateful to be here with all of you today. And as we go through our time together, we're a smaller group. Raise your hand, ask a question. If an insight comes to you, like, I've got some deck and content to go through, but we can make this very conversational because we're talking about leadership. And you're all leaders in your life in a variety of places. You might be a leader in your firm. You might show up as a leader for your clients. You might be a leader in your family, and you might be a leader in the different roles that you might serve on. Like, I've been very involved in the accounting profession, and I show up as a leader in a boardroom there. Wherever you go, there you are. So the more we make this very meaningful to you, the more successful you'll be. So let's start it off with a little bit of a group conversation and answer the first question on the screen. I'd love to hear from the audience, and as needed, Annie can run over the microphone. We're not going there yet. Conscious. What does the word conscious mean to you? No cheating on your phones.
Being present.
Being present, yes. Anyone else? Showing up authentically was one I heard, yes.
Being thoughtful.
Being thoughtful. Being aware.
Deliberate.
Being deliberate, being intentional, yeah. My slides aren't conscious right now. I'm gonna start smoking this thing like Greg said. It really does look like an e-cigarette thing. So consciousness is presence, awareness, intention. There's a saying we say as coaches, which is consciousness precedes choice, choice precedes change. So when you become aware of something, then you have a choice about what you want to do with it. And then once you do something, then that creates the change. And how do you imagine all of this connects to leadership? Yeah, so you have to have knowledge and awareness in making decisions as a leader. Certainly strategic thinking, vision. Yeah. Yeah, knowledge and awareness in guiding it. So taking that forward when you're going to be working with other people and providing leadership to them, whether it's clients or your team, like how do you have awareness of that? And I started my career as an accountant. I have an undergraduate degree in accounting, and I studied for the CPA exam many times. And what I learned in that process is there's a whole lot of orientation to doing. Do. There are things that I have to do in a certain period of time to stay in compliance. And there's little, if any, conversation about being. Who am I being when I walk into a space? Who am I being when I show up to a client meeting? Who am I being when I have a conversation with an employee? So the way I like to think about consciousness is really our ability to see ourselves being ourselves, which is why my 7-year-old, who tells me sometimes my tone's a little off, is an amazing teacher to me, because she reflects that to me. So consciousness is really, oftentimes as a leader, our ability to see ourselves being ourselves. So we watch a lot of Disney in my house with a 7-year-old, and I was watching the movie Soul with my daughter, and I thought that there's a clip in this movie that does an excellent job of really sort of illustrating consciousness and having the ability to see ourselves being ourselves. So before I play the clip, I just want to set it up with a little context. In the movie, there's a group of characters called the Mystics Without Borders. And what the Mystics Without Borders do is they help lost souls reconnect with their earthly bodies. And so the imagery that you see on the screen is a hedge fund manager sitting in his cubicle with all of his, oh, we're not ready. We're not going there yet. We're still setting context. All right, what you see on the screen is the hedge fund manager sitting at the cubicle, right? And he's doing his work. And then that little image to the left of the blue is the lost soul looking down on himself at work, looking down at his earthly body. So again, we're gonna watch this little clip of how a lost hedge fund manager becomes conscious of the life that he's living.
Poor fellow. Some people just can't let go of their own anxieties and obsessions, leaving them lost and disconnected from life, and this is the result.
Make a trade?
Looks like another hedge fund manager.
Now, to reconnect to your earthly body.
Whoa, that's me. Thank you. What am I doing with my life?
That wasn't the end of the clip. I'll tell you what he says next. He says, "What am I doing with my life? What am I doing with my life?" And then he says, "I'm alive! I'm alive!" And he clears everything off of his desk and he goes out of the office. And when I saw that clip, I almost jumped off the couch. I was so excited to tell my daughter, "That's what mommy does for work. You see what happened right there? That's what I do with people." Is we get on a phone call or we're on Zoom and they're like looking down on their life and saying, is the life I'm living the life that I want to be living or not? Because when I become conscious of it, I have a choice. And when I make a choice, then I can make a change. And it was so awesome. Earlier, someone came in and said hi, and I didn't even realize it took me a moment. One of the parts of my career is I was a coach at PwC. I was an internal, so all I did was coach employees there. And this young man, I'm going to call him that because it was a program for senior associates, so I'm making up a story I'm just noticing right now. So I'm watching myself be myself. But he said, I went to Discover and I saw myself being myself and I didn't like it and I left and I started my own firm and I've been doing my own thing for 4 years. So maybe you're going to look at yourself and want to do something different, but oftentimes people don't. Oftentimes I'm coaching people and it's like they just need to make some small changes that have huge ROI. So what we're going to do today is we're going to spend some time at the end of the conversation having you look at your life and doing some introspection and experiencing coaching. But I also want to provide you with some information about consciousness and leadership because we really have a leadership development crisis. It's bigger than accounting, but it is a problem in accounting. So during our time together, we're going to first look at how consciousness structures itself through something called adult development theory. And then we're going to look at the correlation between consciousness and leadership effectiveness because you can actually measure leadership effectiveness, and there's a correlation that the more self-aware you are and the higher order of consciousness or more enlightened you are, the more effective you are as a leader. Then we're gonna look at how you make the shift. I know accountants like how-tos and you're used to checklists and all that, so we have a little how-to in there, and then wrapping it up with providing you with the experience of coaching. So let's nerd out a little bit on the stages of consciousness. So our society really understands the concept of human development, right? Like when I was pregnant, I knew when my daughter was the size of a blueberry or a grapefruit, and then she was born and I knew she would walk around age 1. And then we know that there's the terrible 2s, and then apparently I'm gonna have some trouble when she becomes a teenager, and eventually a child leaves the nest and they go out into the world and they're an adult. And it used to be until the 1980s that we believed that human development and our psychological development ended at age around 18, but that's not the case. So what adult development theory provides is an understanding of how we continue to grow psychologically. But there's some important nuances here that are different than human development. So first off, there's no correlation to IQ. So if you've ever worked with a leader who's technically brilliant, but a real jerk, they're probably high in intellect and lower in their level of consciousness and self-awareness. There's also no correlation to age. So if I look at a group of 10 40-year-olds, we're gonna see people all over the map. Now, just for a minute, take those two in, that there's not a correlation to IQ, and there's not a correlation to age or tenure. Why might that be problematic in accounting and the development of people? Really smart old people doesn't mean they're effective as a leader. Right, yeah. Because we have a societal image of as we get older, we're more important. And that might be perpetuated by the system. So I've worked within firms, directly in accounting firms, public accounting firms for a total of 13 years. And what I saw is so much promotion or authority given to people that are high in intellect and high in years of service, even if they were jerks to work for. Even if everybody could agree no one liked to work for them and they were the cause of turnover, they still were able to have agency in the system. And that's a problem. I like coaching jerks, by the way. If you know any, you can nominate them to me, because really what's going on is there's like a little wounded soul in there. Make a trade, make a trade. And I can be with the temper tantrum. It's totally fine. All right. Why I'm talking to you guys about it today and why it really matters to leadership is the higher order our development, the greater our capacity to be with mental complexity. So the higher order of consciousness, the better we're able to hold steady in a VUCA world: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, right? We can just be with that. Our capacity to be with this stuff doesn't derail us. So what we really want to be doing to develop leaders is we want to be growing them psychologically so that they're producing better business results. On the screen here, you have the 3 basic stages of adult development that I'm going to talk us through. So the lower order is what we call the reactive self. And I have right here the image of an Uber. So this person, a person at this stage, is really being unconsciously driven around by other people's opinions of who they should be in the world. This is awesome for a college student, right? What should I major in? Oh, accounting, you could get a job. Oh, great, I'll go major in accounting. Where should I, what should I do? Should I work in, I took a tax class, I really liked it. And then they hear, oh no, there's more jobs in audit. Okay, so I like tax, but I'm gonna go for a job. Everyone says I should go for audit, so I'm gonna go for audit, even though I'm gonna ignore that I actually like my tax class. And then where should I work? Well, my professor thinks the Big Four is an awesome job. All my professors think the Big Four is an awesome place to work, but I'm watching my friend work 60 hours a week, that guy that graduated last year. Do I really want that for my life? I'm going to work for the Big Four in audit. It's going to be great. Unconscious. Other people's opinions are driving their life. Makes sense. Then there's the next order, as the next level is the creative self. They also call this the self-authoring self. I create my own life. So I'm willing to get behind the wheel and carve my own path. The story of the person that came in and quickly said, hey, yeah, I went to that program and I realized I didn't like my life, so I went out on my own to do my own thing. That's the movement into the creative self. So conscious of their own self, conscious of their own needs, willing to take some risk to meet those needs. But another important distinction here is they're conscious of the climate within the vehicle. Oh, it's cold in here. I need to warm it up. Ooh, my windows are getting foggy. I can't see things as well. I need to do something to clean up that vision so that I can see things more clearly. And then the highest order of development is the integral self. And I have the image of the app Waze. So that one's a little bit different, right? If you use the app Waze, you can be the driver and you can be the passenger. So as a leader, there's not a lot of ego, like it has to be me. I have to be the one. The other thing is that it's open to new routes and destinations. So when you're on the drive, driving towards your goal, and something unexpected happens, you're like, oh, new information? Great. Or, oh, I hit a roadblock? I'm just going to reroute, and I'm going to go somewhere else. People that are in the creative self might get a little more like, I was working really hard on that goal, working on that goal. How dumb was I? I got to this road bump. I should have been smarter. And there's a lot of negative self-talk, and a lot of energy gets wasted there. So what's available with the integral self is a lot more flow and a lot more ease. And I'm going the wrong way. All right. So I want you to now break into pairs. You're here, you're live, you get to network, and you get to have a conversation with one another and discuss, where do you think you find yourself? At what sort of level of development do you see yourself in? The reactive self, the creative self, or the integral self? And I'm going to give you, say, like 4 minutes, 4 rich minutes.
Can you just put the slide back up?
I sure can, yes. All right. All right, we're going to rein it in a little bit. Rein it in. See, this is why I love live conferences, right? You guys get to connect, and I can feel it and talk about it. It's wonderful. All right, so I would love to know who's a leader and who would want to be courageous and share what they saw for themselves. And I'd love to also know your name, where you're from, before you get into that.
My name's Amelia. I'm from Idaho.
Welcome.
So we were kind of talking about, it looks like on the stages there that you're saying, and I'm not telling you exactly what you're saying, but like the reactive is like the really bad, and you kind of have to grow out of that to the creative, and you kind of have to grow out of that to the integral. But I feel like there's parts of me where I couldn't answer whether or not I'm in creative or integral, because I feel like you could get stuck with either one. If I'm only open to new routes, but I'm not also taking control of my car and what's in it and moving it forward, then I have to make sure that I am doing both of those things. So I feel like I'm stuck between those two. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. That's what it is.
Yeah, so thank you. And thanks for your authenticity and being willing to put yourself out there. And there's a lot of really rich nuances in what you shared. So one is like this notion that there's more than one self, which is a great notion. There's a book, I've never even read it, I just love the title, called The Symphony of the Selves. And when I heard the author talk about it, he said, well, you know how when you get in an argument with yourself, like, well, who are you getting in an argument with? Like, there's different parts of yourself. So, hey, I might feel like I have a lot of agency in certain parts of my life, but in other parts of my life, maybe I don't. Or parts of my life, I'm able to flow a lot more, and other parts I'm not. So that is, I think there's some truth in how you're discerning and seeing it for your own self. The other thing is, we only have 50 minutes, so I really simplified it, and I only talked about 3 stages, that there are these in-between stages also that have certain characteristics to them. And then the other piece is, it's not like all of a sudden like oh, I'm enlightened. Now I'm at this stage. Like, that doesn't happen. We have experience of expansion and then contraction. So we might be like going really, really well, and then a circumstance in life happens like we weren't expecting. I don't know, a pandemic, and that has us contract a little bit. So it's not super linear, and it's not like a progression we get there. We're always there. But I know for my own life, and I know in my coaching work, that it's really helped me to better understand where someone's at and how to help them. And when we actually talk about transformation of the human being, and how do you have a transformational coaching experience or a transformational leadership development experience, that when you get someone to move to a higher order of awareness of self, that is more transformative. All right, so now we're going to actually look at how consciousness correlates to leadership effectiveness. And to do that, I'm going to talk you through a tool that I use often, is called the Leadership Circle Profile. So the Leadership Circle Profile is a 360 assessment that measures leadership effectiveness, not job performance. As an example, a company might hire me and say, hey, we want to help someone make it to partner. We want them to act like a partner. And I'm like, awesome, what does act like a partner mean? And they go, oh, no. Or they have 10 people that have 10 different opinions of what that's supposed to look like. And this is a tried and true model that's well grounded in research and statistically validated that measures leadership effectiveness. If it's of interest to you, you can actually go on their website and do their self-assessment for free. So if you want to learn more about it, you can. It's through the Leadership Circle Profile. There's two places a leader can come from. So what you see on here is a very abstract version of the model. It's a high-level overview. The top half of the circle, the dark green, are creative competencies. That's the creative self or the integral self. Okay, it's like a balance sheet. Those are your assets. They're your competencies. They are things that you have learned. They are skills that you have honed. I have an 87-year-old grandfather. He was an electrical engineer in the Silicon Valley, and he holds it that you're either born a leader or you're not. And I'm like, well, Grandpa, that's not true, because if it was true, you wouldn't be sitting in my house, because how I make my money is helping people learn how to be an effective leader. You're not born with it, you can learn it. The bottom half of the circle are the reactive tendencies, or when we're coming from our reactive self. Again, it's like a balance sheet. The bottom half are your liabilities. These are ineffective ways of being, not things that you do, but ways of being that pull down the scores in the creative self. So it's a wonderful model. You can measure leadership effectiveness, and when you use a tool like this, very quickly you can help someone find one piece of the pie that they want to focus on that they can get a high yield on, either stopping the reactive or amplifying the creative. Now, you are all numbers people. I want you to guess about the distribution of mental complexity. So the Leadership Circle Profile has 2.5 million data sets. Said differently, 2.5 million people have taken this assessment. So it's across industries. It's in different languages, so it's being administered in different countries. And what do you think that they have found? How many people do you think, as leaders that have done this assessment, find themselves in the reactive? What percent do you think fall into the creative, and what percent in the integral? Anyone? 50, 25, 25. Anyone? Why do you think it's that? Wild guess or some logic behind it?
Because I work with a lot of people and I work with a lot of companies, and even people who are in charge of their own company, sometimes they're still just on their reactive self.
Yeah, so you're experiencing lots of reaction. So you're basing it off of what you see, 50, 25, 25. Anyone else see it differently? We've got a hand here.
Similarly, just because it's a lot easier to not put conscious thought into what you're doing versus what someone else said or done.
Say, I can't hear, sorry. Oh wait, Annie's gonna come around.
That's unfortunate. I was saying it's a lot easier to just like sit there and listen to what someone else does or says, because then you don't have to put any conscious thought or effort into it. So why would you not? And so it's an easy cop out. So probably a lot of people are living in that stage and simply thinking that's what life is.
Yeah, some people, status quo is fine, and other people's ideas are good enough, and that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with being at a lower level, but when it comes to leadership effectiveness, there is an impact. What the data shows us is that 70% of the people that have taken this assessment are falling into the reactive. I was personally shocked when I saw this. I thought the number would have been way higher. And I think I was partly shocked by it because you have to keep in mind that the people that are doing this leadership assessment, like they've hired a professional coach that's certified to administer, or they're seen as a high potential in their company, like they're not, the quiet quitters that you're trying to like do this work with. They tend to be the high performers in the organization. So keep that in mind too, that 70% are in the reactive, 29% in the creative, and less than 1% make it to the integral. And I think, if I'm just going to keep on waxing on poetic while he's figuring out my thing here, I think social media is exacerbating this. Because people are going on and portraying who they think they're supposed to be in the world, and there's not a lot of time for reflection and soul searching that goes on. And I'm guilty of it. Some days at the end of the day, I'm like, I talk to people about their feelings and their aspirations all day. Like, I just want to scroll on Instagram for a while. But that has an impact. Those internal self-awareness muscles atrophy for every hour I'm on social media. All right, you saw you're seeing Ben Franklin dance into the stage. So this is from October 2020, and why I wanted to put it up here is because it really provides an example of the reactive tendency on a profession-wide scale. Perhaps it was the contraction that we talked about, but I think it's something much worse than that. When COVID happened, as the title says, they were tracking on the going concern all the firms that cut jobs or cut pay or did both. So do you guys remember when that was going on? It was like, oh, I heard there's a pandemic coming and they're cutting jobs and they're cutting compensation. And why? I suggest that they're doing that because they were reacting to fears inside of their minds. And why do I say they're fears inside of their minds? Because what happened during COVID is accountants were managing the front lines of a financial crisis. Services went up, profits went up, costs went down, gross margins were like this, and morale went down, right? Morale is like here. So October of 2020, I wrote an article in Cal CPA, I talked a little bit about adult development theory, but I also said, I believe we're on the precipice of a talent war, perhaps one like we've never seen. And it was because of the way accounting firms were treating their human beings when they needed them to be solid and steady the most. I mean, I'm probably never going to forget what it was like to walk into a grocery store and not be able to buy toilet paper or milk or eggs. There wasn't one frozen food item. They were like defrosting the freezer, which they'd probably never done because there was nothing in there. Like, I needed to know the world was safe. And employers are cutting compensation in people because they're scared in their mind. It's bad. So how do we make a change? How do we do it differently? I hope we start growing our people in a really deeper and more profound way. So when we look at Leadership Circle profile data that measures and continues to measure. What it looks at is leader effectiveness at the different levels. So when someone is operating in the reactive and their scores come in on the bottom half of the circle, the aggregate is they're 40% effective as a leader. When they actualize and have a little more awareness and psychological growth and they get to the creative self, they're 65% effective as a leader. So you see a 25% increase from that growth and expansion in humanity. And then if they make it to the integral self, which is like hashtag goals, I'd love to get there, but I don't know that I ever will, they're 90% effective. So this stuff matters because the world is continuing to change. It's going to continue to be uncertain. The regulations are always going to change. They're always going to be complex and ambiguous. I just accept that. But what we can control is how we feel about it and how we relate to it. So with that, I'd like to share just an example of how this theory actually comes to life. This is a quote, a testimonial from one of my clients who was a sole practitioner who hired me. We worked together for approximately 11 months, and this is what she did during our time together. She said, I clarified what I want for myself. I learned to put my needs ahead of my clients. I now recognize their needs are endless, and I have to have boundaries. I doubled my happiness and billed $80,000 more in a year. I no longer get beat up by the workload nor the bureaucracy of the regulatory environment. Getting worked up doesn't make a difference at the end of the day. That shift from the reactive to the creative is palatable. I clarified what I want for myself. I'm getting behind the wheel of my own vehicle and carving my own way. I'm putting in healthy boundaries. Right? She realized some small things by like, Monday, I'm not talking to any clients, I'm just doing the work. They're only allowed to come into the office these days. Like, I'm gonna restructure how it's gonna go so that I can make my practice work for my own life, right? And I'm not wasting, there's so much mental energy that's wasted when we're just like, make a trade, make a trade, make a trade, or whatever things got you going, that you have this anxiety or obsession, it wastes a lot of energy. For her, it was getting frustrated by the bureaucracy of the regulatory environment, which is frustrating, I get that. But it doesn't make a difference at the end of the day to waste your energy fretting about it. So let's look at now how you make the shift. And I'm specifically going to talk about how we make the shift from the reactive to the creative, because that's applicable to 70%. And if somebody's already feeling like, hey, I'm beyond that, I'm more self-actualized, I think it gives you some more awareness and empathy for those who are making that shift, because it's not an easy shift. So I love this visual display because really when you are making the shift, you're making a leap of faith, right? When you go from who I have been to who I have become, you're going to make a huge, significant shift. And because I love adult development theory and I love rap music, I thought what I would do is play a little song to talk about what I think is necessary for you to make the shift. And before I press play on the music, I want you to imagine, back to this idea that we have different parts of ourself, that you're actually singing this song to the different parts of yourself. So let's go. You used to know how to love me right. You used to know how to love me right. Oh, no, no, no. The music. This Mercury in retrograde. It's a good thing I did yoga the other day. I might be frazzled. Come on. Oh, now I can't even move it. All right. Anybody know that song? It's called Ego Death. And the chorus says, ego death is where you find happiness. Ego death is where you find happiness. The integral self is totally elusive because our ego gets in the way. Buddhism talks about you can come from love or you can come from fear. Leadership Circle Profile says you can come from the reactive or the creative and higher self. So it's all about letting go of this story of who you think you're supposed to be and who society tells you should be, and becoming your authentic self. Well, listen to it, maybe.
Your mind. I would hate to see you cry. Ego death is where you find happiness. That's the only place you find happiness.
murders your ego when you walk away from your old sense of self. So I'll tell you a little quick story about my own ego death. Anyone have a clue what my ego death might have been when you see that image?
I heard CPA exam.
CPA exam, woo-woo! It was real fun. So, everyone has a story. Oh my God, I walked a prometric uphill in the snow both ways. It was terrible. And it was terrible for me. My unique story is that it only took me 2 busy seasons to realize I didn't want to do accounting. And I was working in a firm at the time, and one of the partners that I reported to, she was very influential and senior, and she said, if you did the CPA exam, that with your master's degree, you would have more credentials than any of the partners in the firm. And yes, I want to have more credentials. So the reactive self, the identity is very much, I am my performance, I am my work, I am my achievements. I decided to do the CPA exam. I failed. I don't do failure. I'd never failed anything in my life. It took me 7 sections to pass 4 in 18 months. I did it, but I was miserable. And my experience can best be described by the words of Wayne Dyer, who says, what is on the inside comes outside. It says, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out of it is orange juice. And so when life squeezes you and what comes out of you is anger, hatred, depression, that's what's inside. So in my experience, the CPA exam squeezed me. And I did not like what came out of it, right? Like, I didn't take care of myself, I didn't make time for friendships, and I was a total jerk to people that I loved. And it revealed to me I had some inner work to do, right? Like, great news, I learned how to amortize a bond by hand, helpful life skill, but really, what I learned was that I had to do some work. Because what accounting has provided to me, and why I'm so grateful that I majored in it, is it helped me get out of a really chaotic, unhealthy childhood that was not stable at all, and go into a very respected profession with a nice career path where I would have it all handled. But it turns out I was really good at tasks and not really good at relationship. So I decided to do some inner work and get introspective and ask myself, like, why did I spend so much life energy studying for an exam that I got a big old certificate that I threw in the dumpster? Because I really threw it in the dumpster. I was so mad at myself that I had gone through that, and it was so painful. And I started asking myself, what did I really want to do with my life? Because I knew it wasn't that. And how would I never do something like that again, going into it saying, this is going to be horrible, and I'm going to do it anyway, so I can have as many credentials as the partners? Who cares? Like, why? I was in the lower level of development, and thank God I became a CPA. I'm in an active one now. We can talk about that over a cocktail later. All right, so coaching transformed my life. I came to coaching because of my spiritual breakdown and my ego death, and knowing that there was something more available to me by exploring who I was and understanding who I was and what really mattered to me. So where I want to end our session today is for you to have some time for some introspection for yourself. So grab something to write on. You can even talk to one another in pairs if you want. I'll let you own your process. You know your process better than I do. But I'm going to take you through some coaching questions, and then we're going to wrap it up with a couple last comments. All right, so the first place you want to start, and this is a model from Leadership Circle Profile, that when you're in the higher orders, you're not reacting to what you think you should do. You are first starting off with the vision. What is the vision that I have for my future? And this picture is kind of cheesy, but what I really liked about it is that the guy's like, he's excited about what he sees in his future. And then, the woman to the right's like, ooh, what you got there, And then the guy to the right of her is like skeptical about it. It's all about, what do you see? What do you want for your life? And don't worry about how to. I know you want to worry about how to. We'll get to the how to later. But first start off with, what are the hours I want to work? I do this in my own life. I start off with my daughter's school schedule, and I look at when am I dropping her off, what days, and picking her up, and when does she have vacation, and I put those in my calendar first, and the rest of work falls into that. So what hours do you want to work? And I'm going to go through these questions, and I'll give you some more time. What experiences do I want to have? Like me personally, next summer, I want to take 3 weeks off and go to Europe. It's something I've been working for. I lived in Europe when I was younger. It was another awesome experience we can talk about over cocktails. But Europeans, they always take a month off in the summer. Why am I living by some American paradigm that I don't have to be in? Maybe there's certain experiences you want to have in your business. For me, I decided last year I wanted to rebrand and do some different things. That was an experience that I wanted to create. I had to allocate my time accordingly. Who do I want to surround myself with? I think it's so important that you think about the relationships that nurture you and the ones that drain you. One of the most common things I help people with when it comes to their book of business is getting rid of those energy drains in your practice, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not worth the fees. When you say no, it makes space available for the yes, I want to do this. Yes, I'm all in. And then how much money do I need to earn to create this reality, right? Like, we got bills to pay. Maslow's hierarchy of needs when they talk about self-actualization. Like, I need to pay for my home, I need a roof over my head, I need food on the table, and this is where people get stuck. This is a big sticking point when it comes to moving into the creative self, is the tension that we hold between safety, I got bills to pay, and I have a big, bold vision of something I want to do in my life. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes there, because those are a lot of deep questions that, I don't know, might take months to come to. All right, and just to help manage our time boundary, I'm going to go into the next part of what you want to do. And again, these are questions that take time, right? So sometimes the answers are right there. Sometimes you need to come back to them. But I encourage you to make the space to think about these things. The next place that you want to go is to really start thinking about what you're most passionate about. There's a book. You can go to my company website, because I read a lot of books and I recommend a lot of books, but it's in the top five recommended. It's called The Big Leap, and it's all about going from one fishbowl. It has a picture of a fish in a fishbowl, leaping to the next fishbowl. It's awesome and help you really identifying what am I most passionate about. But I have some coaching questions for you here, which is, what is the work that lights you up, right? Like, what are the projects that you do that you're super excited about, or the client conversations, or the meetings? Like, what are the things that are really energizing you? And then thinking about what creates a flow state. So in the book, The Big Leap, they talk about Einstein time. It's like you're working on this and you totally lose track of time because you're just in your groove and you enjoy it. And another question you might ask yourself is, if you won the lottery tomorrow, what would you be doing more of, or what would you be doing less of? And think of it broadly. Like, one of the things I've learned about myself is what lights me up is being a creator and a builder. So in my professional career, like, I didn't want to be a tax accountant. I moved into creating a role and was in campus recruiting, where I created a whole new branding strategy, co-created an internship, and then I created a learning and development function, and then I created a business as a coach, and then I got hired to be a coach at PwC, where I couldn't create. And I was like, this is boring. Like, I don't like this. So it's not necessarily just the little thing, it's the broader. Like, for me, I've learned I'm a builder, I'm not a maintainer. I just created a new business. I am super clear I'm going to need an operations person to be managing the business, not very long, because I'm going to get bored with that. I know me. And when you know that, you learn how to stay out ahead of yourself. So I'll give you about a minute to write down some of your initial thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up. All right. In the model of the Leadership Circle profile, this is what we illustrate if I take someone through this. is that you've got to have the big picture. What's my purpose? What's my vision for my life and for my impact? And putting that into what am I most passionate about? So when I'm coaching clients, like I remember one day I had a client, I did this with 2 clients, and one client was like, I love the technical stuff, I love technical, I could teach technical all day, this is what I'm most passionate about. And the next person's like, I hate the technical, I love the people development, right? So how do you really own what you love at, what you're best at, and then you go to the employer and you create alignment. This is what I really need, this is what the business really needs, and how do we go on this together? And that's where action is. When you're operating in the reactive, it feels like you're like in 3rd gear, right? You're just going and you're grinding and you're grinding and you're grinding and you're grinding. And when you move into the creative, it's like you're shifting to 5th, and there's so much more flow and there's so much more ease because you actually love what you do. Welcome to my purpose, my vision, my mission. And this is what I created recently, and what I hope for the profession is that conscious public accountants are those that know who they truly are, they know how to be of greatest service, and they know what drives their performance. We need whole, actualized human beings, not just competent accountants. All right, so now is the most important thing. Insight plus action equals results. I want you to identify one action that you're going to take to change your life towards the future that you want. Maybe it's something you heard earlier today. Maybe it's something that came to you right now. And I want you to actually share it with a partner that's sitting in the room, because when you put words to something, I mean, I could get quantum physics on you right now, but it becomes more real, but it also becomes more real for you, and you create an accountability partner. So I would like you to pair up, if you feel so willing, and to share with your partner what is one action that you're going to take that's going to move you forward in your life, consciously move you forward. All right. We're going to wrap it up. And I'm curious if anybody feels inspired to share what they would like to be doing, how they're going to consciously move their life forward. Anybody, like, give me the mic. Oh, is that a hand?
Speak it into existence.
Yes, we got a hand.
I'll go. It would be a little less apologetic for myself. Like, and be more confident and speak up. So
yeah, really nice.
I'm gonna work on that.
Yeah, really nice. Stop apologizing. I love it. I love it. I notice it in email. Everybody I apologize for my late response. I'm like, nobody's dying because it took you 36 hours to get back to me. So it's a great one. Anyone else? Yeah.
I have one right here. Sorry, I have the mic, and then I'll give it to you.
What was that? Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'm not sorry. I want a morning routine. Like, I wake up and I have 5 kids and I get them out the door into school, but what is my morning routine for me? Like, when you said you have a gratitude journal and read, I'm like, well, I want a morning routine for myself. So that's my action.
And I love that, and I will play into it, it's also a morning routine for my daughter. Like, I need solitude and a cup of coffee before I parent, and I'm a way better person. To the point where she's like, Mommy, have you had your coffee? Like, it's become playful. I'm like, Mommy needs a minute. I'm not quite ready to do this whole parenting thing. But like, I now get up when it's dark out because I just need that time for me before the day gets away from me. Yeah. I think we had a hand up front.
I was just thinking I need to work more on the boundaries and saying no way more often.
Yeah.
Way more often.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. We become conscious of it. We're like, oh, now I have choice. Like, I can do something. I can see it. The hard part is you can't unsee it. Like, that's where it gets sticky, but yeah. Any last Any last one? I don't want to neglect this. Oh, we got it way on the other side of the room. You got to get your steps in.
I kind of have a few. One of them that I originally came to my head was just understanding my initial reactions and feelings towards things. Because being young, I have a lot of mentors in my life, and oftentimes when you like idolize someone and you look up to them, their opinion almost becomes yours. And so being very conscious of what I'm taking in and how something makes me feel initially, and then forming my own like opinion about it is also like making that jump that you were talking about in the stages of development. And whatnot. So I think that's fine.
Yeah, you hit on something really important in your share, and it's one of the questions I ask in the intake form if somebody hires our coaching team, which is, tell us about formative like career experiences, life experiences, career experiences, and experiences with leadership, good or bad. Because our initial experiences with an authority figure, whether it's a parent, whether it's a member of the clergy, whether it's a sports coach, we end up unconsciously replaying those patterns in the workplace. So the sooner I know that, the faster I can just get in there and, you know, help that tantrum or whatever might else be going on. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time today. I just really, really love to connect. I loved being with a live audience. I'll be hanging out after. I'll be at the after party if anyone wants to. I was joking earlier, these could be like couches if anyone wants a little coaching to sit back on the chair and relax. But I love to be of service. I love to be connected, and I hope you have a great time for the rest of the conference.